So with all the tools that we had discussed, for example, uh, the some signal processing techniques, modulation concept, coding concept. Let's take a small example of how to calculate a link budget in a communication system. Hmm. So we consider a very practical scenario. Practical scenario means which is actually deployed in practice over various countries. It's a standard, in fact. Many communication actually many communication systems follow certain standards. They do not arbitrarily use frequency or modulation or coding techniques or so on and so forth. For each application you have a fixed standard. Huh? For example, for this radio you have probably FM, and henceforth this much modulation, this much bandwidth, this is the error correcting code or this thing. So things are fixed, and companies which make their products have to satisfy these standards. Standards is made by discussion with academia and with the industry people jointly, along with administration, FCC, European Commission, several other nations. They participate in that, and finally it's standardized. Okay, so we'll study one such standard related to satellite communication, which is a very practical example of communication system. The signal, for example, let's first take a small line of sight link. We have antenna, transmitting antenna with a power input P in, separated by a distance L, and we have another receiving antenna where the power received is P out, right? So then it's a line of sight link. For example, the ground station to satellite is a line of sight. The DTH television that you have in your house to the satellite, the ATM, but the satellite, the dish over the ATM to satellite, these are all line of sight. So let's say L is the loss that is incurred with respect to the input signal when it is received at the output. So loss, so P out is basically loss times P in. Loss is this is a factor which is less than 1, or in dB scale it will be power is expressed in dB, right? For example, 1 watt of power means we often express 1 watt of power as 0 dB watt, or short from dB. 1 milliwatt, a very small amount, typically received, let's say received a power output. 1 milliwatt is 10 to the minus 3 watts, which is minus 30 dB. Again, you have certain terminologies like dBW or dBm. dBm is expressing the power in dB milliwatt. So 1 milliwatt is 0 dBm. 30 so 1 watt is basically 10 power 3 milliwatts, and henceforth if you take 10 log of that power, we often take 10 log. For voltage it is 20 log. So 10 log of 10 power 3 gives us 30. So 1 watt is 0 dB watt or 30 dBm. So these are certain definite certain let's say units which we normally use in day-to-day discussions. Please get familiarized with these things. So radio transmission loss for line of sight propagation. So if L is the loss, we see that it is 4 pi small l by lambda whole square. It's proportional to this actually, and there is a free space loss. This happens due to the spherical dispersion of energy over a distance L. Nothing is present which is creating the loss. It's just transmitting antenna, wave is propagated along all direction. It's spherical wavefront which is radiated, and when it is received here, you have um, a portion of the input power which is received here, because the remaining portion gets lost in, for example, in this region and this region. Only a portion which is received here. So it's just due to the spherical dispersion of electromagnetic wave propagation. So the loss that you have is 4 pi by lambda. L is the distance, line of sight distance between the transmitting and the receiving antenna. In terms of frequency, you can convert the wavelength lambda to f by, so 1 by lambda is f by c. So it's proportional to frequency square, proportional to L square. So when you express this in dB, you take 10 log, and henceforth you have 4 pi by c square. This is a constant term, gives us 92.4 plus 20 log 10 f, and 20 log 10 L in kilometer, f in gigahertz. So you here frequency, it's in hertz, L is in meter. So it's always easier for us to express in certain more convenient units. For example, frequency will be in gigahertz for a satellite communication channel, and the distance would be in so and so kilometer. So you absorb this 10 power 9, 10 power 3 and everything within this constant. Additionally, there may be certain loss due to something, here we have written weather condition. So it may be due to absorption, scattering of electromagnetic wave when it propagates through the atmosphere, ionosphere, various layers of atmosphere. Air, moisture, for example, rainy, cloudy, you have larger loss. You see there is a problem in reception of signal in television, if everybody is familiar with this. Severe weather conditions, thunder, cyclone and other things, or there may be certain other reasons why, which cannot be directly predicted, but we accommodate in this L extra, L weather. So what is the received signal, P out? The received signal is, if GT is the gain of the transmitting antenna, GR is the gain of the receiving antenna. So what is the received signal? Received signal is the transmitted signal is P in times GT, gain of the transmitting antenna. Gain of the receiving, so divide by L. So P in times GT by L is the received signal here, multiplied by gain of the receiving antenna, GR. So received output, signal output P out is GT GR by L P in. L is the loss, not in dB, regular scale. If you convert to dB, you have to take P out dB is GT dB plus GR dB minus L in dB plus P in dB. Okay. So given the dimension of an antenna, let's say an antenna with a area A, effective aperture area being AE. AE should be little less than A. It's a dish antenna. The area is the pi r square, radius of the dish. R is the radius of the dish, but effective aperture area is probably a little, 90% of that pi r square. So 90% comes from the fact that how is the current, how good the antenna is designed such that it uses the whole of the aperture to radiate. So it's related to a design of antenna. So gain of an antenna is 4 pi AE by lambda square. Again, these things we have not derived in electromagnetic theory because that requires a little more, we need to go a little more in details, but for the time being we assume that these things hold true. So gain is inversely proportional to lambda square, and that means directly proportional to frequency square and directly proportional to the effective aperture area. Larger the aperture area, larger is the gain. So radio telescope, you'll see they are using extremely large size antenna, and henceforth the gain is much high because you need to receive signal which are extremely low amplitude, embedded almost in noise. So transmitter is characterized by something known as EIRP, effective isotropic radiated power. So P in times GT, that means P in is the power input to the antenna, GT is the gain, so P in times GT is known as EIRP. Any transmitter is characterized by what is the EIRP of the transmitter. Receiver is characterized by something known as receiver sensitivity. We'll see that. We'll see what it is. The receiver sensitivity is the minimum received signal such that the receiver can operate in a decent environment. That means can do additional features like demodulation, decoding, and etc. processing of data. So it's the minimum received signal that is that the receiver can handle. Okay. So to calculate the received SNR is signal to noise ratio. Remember, we introduced this concept some time back. We need to know something known as noise flow level of the receiver. So what is the noise flow level of the receiver? This is a very important terminology. Any receiver is characterized to calculate SNR is characterized by something known as noise flow level. Okay, if we consider just a pure thermal noise, for example, a resistor R, because of the movement of electrons, it will and the opposite and the resistivity faced by the movement of electrons when it hits to that heavy atoms of the metal, and it will generate this random motions would generate something known as thermal noise. We are not discussing about the physics of the problem. They are good enough discussed in semiconductor physics. So thermal noise power, P noise, is basically proportional to temperature. The higher the temperature, more is the thermal noise. That's why, for very low noise astronomical instruments we go to, the things are kept at extremely low temperature, close to few kelvins. It's proportional to the bandwidth. Larger the bandwidth, larger is the thermal noise power. So proportional constant given by K, which is Boltzmann constant. So KTB, thermal noise power. P noise. So for a 50 ohm system at room temperature, if you substitute this value, room temperature something like 27 degree or so and so. So you substitute this value KT and it comes out to be per hertz. It is minus 174 dBm. You recall we just now discussed what is dBm. So dBm is 0 dBm means 1 milliwatt of power. So 10 milliwatt of power means 10 log 10. So that turns out to be log base 10 turns out to be 10 dBm. So 0.1 milliwatt of power means minus 10 dBm. So here it is minus 174 dBm. Okay, per hertz. Per hertz means per hertz of bandwidth. So if you know the bandwidth, you know what is the total noise power. So noise flow now can be expressed in dBm as equal to minus 174 plus 10 log B, this bandwidth, because if we take 10 log of this, so 10 log KT plus 10 log B, so 10 log KT is this thing. So 10 log bandwidth plus something known as NF, noise figure. Again, we have certain another new characteristics of a receiver. So in many cases, other than receiver sensitivity or noise floor, we also need to know what is the noise figure of the receiver. We'll study this little detail later. So noise figure of a receiver is a figure of merit of the noise added by the receiver. So it's typically expressed in dB. So figure of merit of the noise added by the receiver. What does it mean? That means if I have a receiver and a signal to noise ratio SNR input to the receiver, it passes through the receiver, and at the processing I have a signal to noise ratio output. So signal may get amplified and so on and so forth. Likewise, the corresponding noise at the input will also get amplified. Other than that, the receiver will itself introduce certain noise, maybe due to the nonlinearity, to a resistive element present, or whatever it is. So that's why we try to design receiver, the very first block of a receiver is something known as a low noise amplifier, such that it reduces the overall noise figure or noise characteristics of the receiver. So the desire is to have a noise figure as small as possible. So noise floor is minus 170 watt, comes from here, plus noise figure, this is another characteristic of receiver, and bandwidth comes into the picture in this expression. Okay, so we'll utilize this this tiny little formula to calculate what is received SNR, signal to noise ratio, at the receiver. Okay, as discussed before, let's consider this example, a satellite relay system. So for a non-line of sight communication means, that means I have a transmitter here, there are obstructions as you see here. Obstructions means there are, for example, mountains, houses, and so on and so forth, forestry, or curvature of the earth, and I want to have a signal received in the receiver here. A satellite is used as a relay. This is often used in a transoceanic television transmission from transoceanic, from especially along the Atlantic coast, New York to UK, London, okay, or several other applications. So you have a transmitter, the satellite, it relays to the satellite, satellite acts as a relay, it receives the signal here, it sends the signal to the desired receiver position. Satellite is the C-band satellite, and typically you utilize the same antenna, but you use two different frequencies for uplink and downlink in order to avoid something known as interference. So signal, uplink signal and downlink signal, so it's a simultaneous transmission, are placed at two different carrier frequency, or modulated rather at two different carrier frequency. So satellite television system, with the satellite system serving as a repeater relay, the satellite is in geostationary orbit. Geostationary orbit means it is at a distance above the equator, 36,000 km above the equator. So if it is geostationary, it rotates at such a speed such that looking from that omega square r is balances that velocity, balances that the gravity and so on and so forth. So that is the position. The satellite direction always remains fixed with respect to the transmitting antenna and with respect to the receiving antenna. That's why this geostationary orbit is so important. Location is 36,000 km. Okay. The uplink frequency, that means from here to here, 6 gigahertz. Downlink frequency from here to here is 4 gigahertz. But you are utilizing the same antenna, recall. So I am utilizing this antenna and this antenna, they are same for the transmitting receiving, because in one case I will be using this as a transmitter and I will be using this as a receiver. For the other case I will be transmitting from here and I will be receiving here. So I need to use the same antenna. Similarly, in the satellite, definitely do not have much option to have multiple antennas at different frequencies. So you use the same antenna aperture for both the frequencies. This is an important criteria. The bandwidth is B in megahertz, let's say. We do not know what is B. We will now do a link budget analysis, find out what is this B. Okay. So the satellite, the transmitting antenna has a gain of 55 dB. Base station antenna has a uplink gain. Uplink means it is at a frequency 6 gigahertz of 55 dB. That means, gain we had already discussed, gain of an antenna. What did we say? Gain of an antenna 4 pi by lambda square AE. AE is the effective aperture area. So it remains almost same across the frequency, effective aperture area. So basically gain is proportional to frequency square. So at that frequency, the gain is at uplink frequency, that means at a frequency of 6 gigahertz, the gain is 55 dB. Okay. The weather condition, we have a 5 dB margin for the loss due to the weather and other atmospheric effects. The satellite antenna naturally is very small because it's located not the ground antenna is a large antenna, large aperture area, so you have a higher gain. Satellite antenna is a smaller one, so it has a lesser gain. Let's say 25 dB gain at uplink. Also, satellite receiver sensitivity is minus 85 dBW. What did we say? What is receiver sensitivity? Receiver sensitivity is the minimum received signal such that the receiver can operate. It is given that my satellite receiver sensitivity is minus 85 dBW, dB watt. Okay, so with all this data that we have at hand, let's try to calculate the link budget. So what is the uplink loss? Uplink loss means, let's say I'm transmitting from here, the distance is roughly the same, 36,000 kilometer. So from here to here, what is the loss for the uplink? So if you calculate what is the loss from the uplink, see, I have put directly the values here. Let me go back to the equations we had discussed here. 92.4 plus 20 log 10 f in gigahertz plus 20 log 10 L in kilometer. Here f in gigahertz is the center frequency. Naturally, center frequency is 6 gigahertz, and bandwidth is some excursion around that, so it won't change much, plus the weather loss. L is the distance in kilometer. So we plug this value. So 36,000 kilometer here and 6 gigahertz. If you plug and weather loss of 5 dB, you have roughly around 204 dB. Downlink loss. Let's calculate the downlink loss denoted by LD. Again, substituting back in that formula. Downlink, the frequency is 4 gigahertz. So 10 log f, you have a smaller value compared to the uplink, plus 5 dB, and henceforth it's roughly around 200.6 dB. Okay, fine. So if the transmit input power, we'll see what should be the transmit input power. Let's say the transmit input power is 40 dB watt. You can calculate, it turns out how much watt is the power. You can calculate back at home. So if the transmit input power is 40 dB watt, then what is the power received at the satellite? Power received at the satellite is the transmit power plus the gain of the antenna, transmit antenna uplink, which is 55, the loss minus 204, and plus the gain of the satellite antenna, which is 25 dB at the uplink. Turns out to be minus 84 dB watt, which is just above receiver sensitivity, barely above receiver sensitivity. So the transmit input power has to be at least 40 dB watt. Very good. So we have calculated what is the transmit input power. This is the first calculation that we have done, such that it satisfies the given specifications. Okay. Now let's move to the downlink. So satellite gain for downlink. First we have to calculate the gain for downlink. Everything is given with respect to the uplink. So gain for downlink. So for uplink, gain is 4 pi AE by lambda u square. Lambda u is the wavelength of uplink. Gain for downlink is 4 pi AE by lambda d square. So uplink gain we already know. Satellite uplink gain 25 dB at 6 gigahertz. So you can calculate what is the gain for downlink, and it turns out to be 18 dB. Similarly, for base station antenna gain, for you have 55 dB for uplink. Henceforth, for downlink, the gain with the same aperture area, effective aperture area, turns out to be 48 dB. Because the downlink frequency is now 4 gigahertz. Okay, so satellite downlink, that means this downlink gain is 18 dB with the same antenna. The base station receiving antenna as a for the case of downlink, when it is receiving signal from the satellite, has a gain of 48 dB. Okay, good. So what is the power output at the receiver, at the received signal? Satellite, we said that the satellite, what is the signal that can be sent by the satellite? What is the amount of signal? We have 25 dB watt plus 18 dB is the gain of the satellite antenna. You have a loss of minus 200.6 dB, and we have a received antenna base station gain of 48 dB. So it turns out to be minus 109.6 dB watt. So the satellite can transmit power, the maximum output power here, maximum output power of the satellite is 25 dB watt. It is definitely much smaller than whatever is the output power of the transmitter, because satellite is located, it's a smaller, you can say miniaturized base station, located, so it has to be very compact, power amplifiers, smaller power amplifiers, less of cooling and so on and so forth. Henceforth, it is not a very efficient transmitter compared to a base station transmitter. It is a certain decent output power, not very high output power. Okay, so with this, figures turns out to be minus 109 dB watt. We convert dB watt to dBm, as I already mentioned. For example, 1 watt is 0 dB watt. 1 watt of power is 10 power 3 milliwatt. That means 30 dBm. So 0 dB is 30 dBm. So much minus 109.6 dB watt is this plus 30 dBm. That means minus 79.6 dBm. This is the conversion. Okay. So we have things in dBm now. Okay. Fine. So base station receiver sensitivity now thus has to be better than minus 80 dBm, because it is receiving a signal of this range. So the requirement for a base station receiver sensitivity, for what was the case for a satellite, this thing, receiver sensitivity minus 85 dB watt. Okay, so minus 85 dB watt was the satellite receiver sensitivity. If you convert this dB watt to dBm, it turns out to be minus 55 dBm. On the other hand, the base station receiver sensitivity is minus 80 dBm. Naturally, receiver has to be much better than what is required in a satellite. Okay, it has to be much more efficient to handle lower power, extremely low power signal. Now let's do the SNR analysis. SNR analysis. So received noise floor. We go back to what we discussed. Noise floor. Noise floor was this KT comes as minus 174 dBm plus noise figure of the receiver plus 10 log bandwidth. Bandwidth we still do not know. We'll now determine bandwidth from here. So receiver noise floor is minus 174 plus noise figure plus 10 log bandwidth. Okay. A typical noise figure of a receiver, good receiver, low noise figure is something around 6 to 8 dB. Let's say 8 dB, some value, typical value which we'll choose. So we have noise floor as minus 174 plus 8 and 10 log B dBm turns out to be minus 106 plus 10 log 10 B in megahertz dBm. Okay, fine. So SNR is the SNR, signal to noise ratio. Let's calculate the signal to noise ratio. Signal to noise ratio is here. The signal, the received signal we have is minus 79.6 dBm. And noise floor is something of this sort. So SNR is signal power divided by noise power. In dB it's a ratio, so in dB it is just subtraction. So minus 79.6 dBm minus P noise in dBm. So much dB, the unit is dB, because ratio, it's a unit of ratio. Ratio does not have any unit. So we have to choose here P noise, the unknown is bandwidth. So we choose appropriate bandwidth to satisfy the following requirements. So we choose a bandwidth such that the data rate that we can achieve is better than 20 Mbps, the requirement at that point. And you have a second criteria, at least a 10 dB SNR or signal to noise ratio for appropriate demodulation with low error and post processing of received signal. So let's see. Data rate means we invoke the formula we had studied a couple of lectures back. regarding the channel capacity, where we said that the maximum achievable data rate is upper bounded by something known as Shannon's formula, B log base 2 1 plus SNR. Here SNR is not in dB, it's a normal scale. So if we choose B is 36 megahertz, which is actually in practice, so P noise turns out to be, if you substitute back here, minus 90.4 dBm. SNR turns out to be, if you subtract this, more than 10 dB, 10.8 dB, and the data rate turns out to be 22.5 Mbps. And it satisfies these criteria of 20 megahertz, 10 dB SNR, and so on and so forth. Okay, if you see, there's very interesting thing actually. If you choose bandwidth larger, what will happen is bandwidth, if you choose larger, you will have suffer in SNR, because SNR is dependent on bandwidth. This is fixed. P noise is dependent on the bandwidth. The larger the bandwidth, more is the noise floor, and henceforth lesser is the signal to noise ratio. Even though, and then you have this formula, larger bandwidth, lower signal to noise ratio. So you will suffer in SNR. Difficult to say what will happen for the data rate. If you go for lower bandwidth, what will happen is you may have a larger SNR, but because of this constraint, larger SNR, but bandwidth is reducing, SNR is increasing, data rate condition may not be satisfied. So it's a very interesting trade-off, SNR, bandwidth, and data rate, all these things coupled together. So this example actually illustrates how we actually play around with these various parameters and try to establish or calculate link budget, transmitting power, determine the receiver sensitivity, how good a receiver it should be, and once you know these parameters, you then go and design the receiver hardware such that it satisfies those criteria. And this is a system level design example, very practical system which is deployed in practice. With this, actually we end the discussion of very introduction to communication systems. Next lecture series will move towards the modulation. The modulation means we'll discuss about first something known as the linear modulation techniques, or an example of linear modulation is amplitude modulation. Okay, thank you.